What's up, guys? DeBUNKING here. Be sure to like and subscribe if you are new. So there seems to be a pretty common consensus in right-wing thought that the best way for Republicans to win in November is if Donald Trump stays on the sidelines, stays kind of quiet. And Ben Shapiro went on a long Twitter thread about it this week, but it can basically be summed up by this single tweet that says, quote, "The more Republicans talk about Trump, the worse they do electorally." Now, Ben is a smart guy. Some would say a genius. But here's the thing. Facts don't care about your feelings. And the facts are not on Ben Shapiro's side with this one, nor are they on the side of any of the conservative figures who subscribe to this thinking. And let me just first say that I do understand their logic. Hey, Trump is a divisive figure. This is a general election. The main swing voters these days is the suburban moderates. So the best way, hypothetically, to win the election is by keeping Trump and the culture war out of it. Now, again, here's the issue. This may make some logical sense, but it's not backed by evidence. And therefore, wait for it, it is just based on feelings. The real problem is that Donald Trump and the culture war he represents is not being campaigned on enough by the GOP, and I'm going to prove that today in a fairly objective way. So let's get started. Firstly, Ben Shapiro does rightly diagnose the same thing that every major analyst and pollster has, which is that while Democrat energy is slightly higher because of abortion, it's still relatively low. And the real problem we're having is that there's a mysterious lack of energy and turnout from Republicans. The real question is, where did all of that Republican energy go, and how do we bring it back? That's where I'm going to disprove Ben Shapiro's argument with two primary sources: polls and actual election results. You ready? Let's start with polls by pointing out that Donald Trump is more popular in a lot of these swing states than the Republican candidates he supposedly needs to stay away from. And all three of the recent Emerson College polls show that. Let's start in the state of Pennsylvania, where the latest Emerson poll found Dr. Oz trailing John Fetterman by 4 points. The corresponding Emerson poll for a hypothetical 2024 primary has Trump leading Biden by 5 points in Pennsylvania. That's a 9-point difference. In Ohio, J.D. Vance leads Tim Ryan by 3, but Trump leads Biden by 14. In Georgia, Herschel Walker leads Raphael Warnock by 2, whereas Trump leads by 5, which I honestly find the most surprising because you could definitely understand Trump being popular in the Midwest, the Rust Belt, Trump country, but this is supposedly neocon Georgia that rejects Trump and loves Brian Kemp, and yet still Trump is more popular in Georgia than hometown hero Herschel Walker. The conclusion from these numbers is obvious. Clearly, Donald Trump is not the problem. If anything, he's the solution for these candidates. If anything, it would be smart for these candidates to have Trump campaign for them, considering Trump is actually more popular in their own states than they are. But you may say, those are polls. They can be unreliable, and that's true. So let's take a look at recent election results. Now, last Tuesday's New York special election for Congress is the one that is causing a lot of people to sound the alarms about the GOP in the midterms. And this was basically a close district that Republicans could have won and should have won, but they narrowly lost instead. And this is where people like Ben Shapiro would blame the divisiveness of Trump. But let's look closer at how and why Republicans lost. Because if the suburbs are the places that screwed us over, then you could definitely blame Trump. But even as anti-Trump pollster dudes like Dave Wasserman pointed out, the Republican problem right now isn't the suburbs. It's the rural areas. We lost that race in New York because rural turnout wasn't high enough. We actually did pretty well in the suburbs. Lots of other polls and signs are showing this too. Suburban moderates aren't the problem. The hardcore, loyal base is the problem. For whatever reason, there is a lack of energy among the core GOP base. It is the reliable Republicans, the Trump people, the rural people who the numbers are showing us right now have an energy problem. And I think even Ben would have to agree the solution to that problem in particular is certainly Donald Trump. At the very least, Trump needs to campaign for these candidates, especially in the Midwest, and arguably, he might even want to announce for president before the midterms because the GOP needs a spark. It needs an energy boost, and he has the power to ignite that. The last thing I will note is simply history. This isn't about Trump directly, but he's implied in it, and it's the fact that the economy alone is not enough for Republicans to win elections. They need the culture war too. And ever since Dobbs, they have backed off of that and just stuck to campaigning about gas prices and inflation. They even basically say to Democrats, you guys are trying to make this election about cultural issues. We just care about the economy. And you wonder why your own base is struggling? I say history because I want to bring up 2018, a year where Republicans dropped the ball on immigration and a lot of other cultural issues that Trump got elected on. But if you'll remember, they did have a very strong economy to campaign on, and jobs were the big talking point of that election cycle, and they lost. Well, now again, Republicans are retreating on the culture and simply relying on the fact that we have a horrible economy that should favor the opposite party. Yet again, we are losing. And we were doing very well right up until we decided to just drop the culture war after Dobbs. See that? So anyways, I'm just saying, contrary to the popular belief that Trump and the culture war are the things to run away from in this election cycle, I have to make the case, based on what we're seeing, it's the opposite. It's what might save and rescue the GOP in this election cycle, and it's true. So, this is not an insult or a slight at Ben Shapiro, but honestly, I have to say, I think he's a little bit out of touch on this. It's a very suburban way of thinking, which I understand because that's his perspective, but every objective metric I can see seems to disagree with him. Because look, I love Trump, but maybe if it were true that it was best for the America First candidates for him to stay out of their races, I wouldn't make this video. But I don't think it's true. I think you guys can agree from these numbers that it's just not reality, and it is what it is. Those are the facts, not the feelings, right? Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to check out the merch link in the description or go to www.thevincedao.com to support the channel. Very epic stuff. Subscribe if you are new, which we may have because, Ben Shapiro is in the title. So if you're new, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Consider becoming a member. And until next time, Alpha moves only. God bless and peace.